Now, since we're doing our beginner's mind on the article about the Federal Reserve, I want to say something about it, and I was just reminded. Uh, Remind me, but it's very easy, by the way. You see, I'll be honest about a lot of like the sort of psycho. It's important to understand. A lot of people like. It's one reason I have such a problem with people who have conspiracy theories about the Federal Reserve Bank, is because here's the thing. Like it's a topic a lot of people like are like. It's some people gravitate towards the topic. They do. I mean, there's 1,000 things to look into politically. You can not really still gravitate towards the topic. But I said I'm being sort of well, although we're doing beginner's mind, I'm still being a little bit. I'm not. There's something we have to mention if you're like followed the other two videos and we're they're learning something together or something. It's very important to realize it's easy for me to sit in like a nice, I'm in a hotel and I'm looking at my paper and I'm making it seem I'm saying, well, the money doesn't have any value and they're doing all this stuff, and then we're talking about the open market operations and this and that. But I mean, there's something that we should mention. I mean, when we say we're in hyperinflation, I actually can't imagine. I want to say something like, all my life I thought I basically understood, well, we live in a two-class society and so on and so forth. Okay, just I actually don't know how anyone is getting by when the money has this little value. And wages remain low, and that's structural, and it's because of it's largely both of those are largely because of the activities of this Federal Reserve Bank with other central banks. Not in our like I said, in our country, there's very little they can do to help actually with our economy, keep it chugging along once in a while. No, but their activities, along with the other central banks and financial institutions, what they've done to the economy and what they've done to the currency, okay, they have their activities with the other banks, okay, with the other, and particularly the other central banks, what's often called like the inter-alpha group of banks, includes things like Royal Bank of Scotland, all the central banks, this and that, okay. I actually don't know how anyone's surviving right now. I don't. Your narrator has a lot of privilege, living like a hotel and everything. Listen to me very carefully. I was like, broke at the end of the month. I mean, the money doesn't have any value. Okay, so I mean, it's not just the money doesn't have any value, but wages are at a historic low. And what's happened? When I say what we see was geez, but narrator, aren't you like in the investor class or something? We are in a low wage, low growth, permanent situation. That's what's happening because of the activities of these good fellows at the central bank and who they work with and what they're doing internationally and to all the economies. It's a low wage, low growth equilibrium, okay? So in other words, people like me or people like whoever who, someone would say like, oh, I guess this, or like the rich people, whatever, like, right. Well, what's happening to keeping up with inflation, just keeping up with inflation, being an investor now just has to do it, just outdistance, just the money, at least their money retains some of its value because you're invested. That's about it, okay? Wages are going to be are basically at a permanent low or getting lower. This is because of the activities. See what the main activity of our Federal Reserve, the Congress and all the jackasses in there are basically powerless. I mean, when institutions this large are operating in strategic alliance with other institutions that big, that may be why the talk that comes out of the mouths of congressmen is they just know they can't do anything. So they just, but and they know that, and they know we know that, and they're like talking to someone else when they talk. Yeah, you're repudiate Obamacare. Like, they know they're talking to certain type of people, and they just say, yeah, just don't pay attention to us. Maybe that's what they're doing. But, right, I don't know how anyone's getting by at all. I don't know. Like, if but if you're part of any other sector, but we know, I mean, we don't. We actually don't. Particularly, like, I think often while they're doing this, like, we got cracked down into this immigration debate and everything, I believe there should be there should be no deport. We have a complete halt on any. There should be no deportations out of the country for citizenship violations. When it's when what's going on, see, people do like they desperately try to get into America, take a lot of risks, like for a better life. Okay, it's a surprise probably to like come over and find out conditions here for like the working poor and stuff is actually like as it is like I'm saying, like it's not just as it is. I mean, just it's terrible for people in our own country. It's looking more and more like that, like what we used to call a third world country. That's what our country looks like. So largely because of the activities of operations like this, Federal Reserve of ours, which I have to mention because that's part of the sort of like twisted irony of this, like the New York Times like op-ed, which would suggest like it may have a role to play in like in somehow like helping or like regulating the economy. I mean, as it is, it can do very little, but what it's doing to harm is an emergency. It's an emergency situation, and we don't know what to do.